Hello and welcome to Speedtalks, the podcast about everything tech in the financial services industry. The topic of today's conversation is value-added services, strategies, trends, and insights on value-added services for banks and financial organizations. Today we want to look at VASs, that's how I'm going to refer to value-added services in banking. And my core goal for today would be to assess what kind of value they can actually bring to the table for this sector. I will briefly go through the definition and the history of that instrument. I'll talk through 5 values that VASs bring to the table. I will discuss 5 core groups of value-added services offered on the market at the moment, the most popular ones, the types, and just what's out there. I'm going to briefly go through a few tips on how to implement VASs best, and I'll have a quick look into the future of value-added services in the industry. My name is Michał Grela. I'm the head of sales and marketing at Speednet, and I just can't wait to jump right into the topic. This is the first episode of our Speedtalks podcast, so that makes me even more excited. Hope you will enjoy it. Just wanted to start with a few words about the idea of this episode. On a daily basis, when working, speaking, networking with banks, the topic of value-added services always comes around. I mean, it's a great way to extend portfolio from the banking perspective, to build an innovative banking brand, to build partnerships with fintechs and SaaSes out there, and at the end of the day, to increase profit and impact the bottom line. So there's definitely a lot of birds that can be hit with one stone here. But yet, there is still relatively little content out there. That's why in our marketing team, we've been working on a white paper recently about value-added services. And this podcast, the idea for this podcast is a kind of extension of this material. If value-added services is a topic of your interest, you will find a link to download this PDF white paper here in the description of this episode. And you can also go directly to speednetsoftware.com and you'll find the material there on the bottom of the page. But let's just jump straight to the content then. What's the state or value of value-added services in banking? And when I say value-added services or VASs, it's good to be aligned with the definition of that phenomenon first. In my understanding, value-added services refer to any non-core services, something that goes beyond the basic features you would expect from a bank in this case, or an insurance company in this case, to be offered by them. Funny enough, they originate from the telecommunication industry, where operators would, for example, add supplementary services to their standard offer. And if you look at the cases, Vodafone Egypt, for example, they offered end-of-call notification VAS, which means that at the end of each call, a customer would be notified about the exact call cost and the remaining balance if they are using a top-up service, for example. Or in Poland, for example, there's Orange VOD, which is a movie rental service. And if you look at the value-added services market capitalization, currently it's valued for almost 400 billion a year and is expected to almost double, exceeding 600 in 2030. So that's in 6 years, which means it's definitely continuing to gain ground. And if you look specifically at value-added services in banking, because that's the core focus of this conversation and this podcast, it's all about extending beyond traditional financial products to offer additional functionalities that would, one way or another, cater to customers' needs. And it's important specifically as it is the digital channels that are growing the most recently. If you look at mobile banking, for example, it's becoming fundamental, mostly due to the widespread use of mobile devices as the main access point to the internet for the majority of global users, not only in Europe, but that's the same across LATAM, North America, Asia, Africa, you name it. And with this in mind, and being aware of that fact, banks started the race on how many new extra additional features can they add to their banking mobile service that would extend their offering and at the end of the day help them generate additional profit. So it is the growth of mobile channels that is fueling the growth of value-added services in the banking space, since they are mainly the part of the mobile application at the bank, on the mobile banking side for sure. But why would banks bother in the first place? That smoothly takes us to the 5 core values that value-added services bring to the table. So let's start with the most obvious one for sure, which is they generate additional revenue streams. So VASs can open new opportunities when it comes to making money through fees, commissions, and premiums associated with these premium services and add-on features. But there's more to that. VASs bring competitive differentiation. They allow banks to set them against competition, attract new customers, let's say bring attention to people. Value-added services allow banks to differentiate themselves against competitors, attract new customers, specifically those who are seeking additional benefits beyond traditional banking services, because there's a group, let's say a chunk of customers who are more receptive to that kind of services. And here it's banging for bucks if you can offer them this extra premium services. The third group of values that VASs bring to the table are cross-selling opportunities that VASs open. It is a great way for banks to cross-sell and upsell other products and services such as investments products, wealth management products, insurance, loans, the list goes on and on. And last but not least, there are aspects related to increased customer loyalty, because as a bank, providing valuable services beyond just basic offering, that fosters stronger relationships with customers. It leads to increased loyalty and retention. And that translates into, let's say, more valuable brand reputation. I mean, providing reliable value-added services, it just enhances the bank's brand reputation. So these are the benefits for the banking side. But VASs bring a lot of benefits to the customer side as well, because it not only strengthens customer engagement, increases loyalty, and makes more money, but from the user's perspective, it improves the overall banking experience, because you get access to perks and discounts with fewer apps to install and use. You've got just one account to rule them all. It's sort of like the super app style thing, which continues to gain grounds in many different markets. So this is a trend that banks can capitalize on, and it's just something that customers are really looking forward to. That leads us to a quick review of the current value-added services state of art, let's put it that way. And again, we can consider value-added services to be usually one of these 5 groups. It's either commercial, mobility, public services, entertainment, or let's say additional services. By commercial value-added services, I mean access to shopping platforms, discount codes, promotions, special offers, any kind of premiums, everything that goes to that. Mobility, taking you from one place to another and paying for it, means parking, public transportation tickets, highway access payments, car registration, car insurance, flight tickets, accommodation bookings, all that sort of good stuff. Then public services, company registration, healthcare payments, social benefits, tax form submissions, any other public, let's say government applications or submissions, tax support. The list here is long as well. And then moving forward to entertainment with cinema tickets, event access, subscription purchases and management of, video on demand access, books, ebooks purchases. You can put a lot of examples in here. And then when it comes to additional features or services, that usually is related to credit scoring, password management, cybersecurity support, insurance, storage spaces, having a concierge on demand, house billing payments, buy now, pay later payments. Again, a lot of, let's say, value-added services fill in here. If you would like to look at the market, say, holistically, there are some, say, societies that are more receptive to leveraging VASs, and that's definitely the Nordics, Poland, Benelux, Spain. These are, let's say, the advanced markets. racing on integrating crazy value-added services. Preparing for that episode, I even came across one bank in the Netherlands that had as much as 52 value-added services built in, with some being as out of the box as, for example, an implemented in mobile banking app, a live score system for football, for example, connected to betting providers, external third parties. So within your mobile banking app, you can check how your team played last weekend and then book games in advance. I mean, would you do that? I'm not sure if I would. I'm not, let's say, a betting fan myself. A sports fan, yes. So potentially that could be an interesting service. And I guess that on the bank side, there are questions like that being asked. I mean, would our customers do that? And there's actually a quick method of checking that. So a value-added service implementation is good is a good idea if it ticks 3 boxes of trust, convenience, and usability. Or even more, expanding on that, customer centricity, the bank needs, and supplier relations. That all needs to fit in well together, because you have to either build it or implement an out-of-the-box solution that will both play quite well with what the customer's needs and what the bank's needs. And if that is all in place, then I think you're on the safe side to go on and implement them. So how would you implement them, you may ask? I would say that the insights on implementation process of value-added services, I would say, can follow a structured approach that is very much similar to launching any new product. So you start with collecting ideas, and you can gather them from various sources, like including within the bank, like your customer service team, your innovation department, or externally outside the bank with customer feedback, market research, fintech accelerators, any startups that you work with. Then you need to sort of sift out these ideas, evaluate them, and check if, for example, similar solutions do exist on the market. Is there a comparable offering already out there that you don't have to build, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, for example. And you can choose the idea that is most unique or has the most impact or will bring most value to you or your customers. Then you need to move to a strategy or a plan then. So a strategy is something more high level, outlining the vision, the target market, user demographics, position in your service offering, key features, key benefits that this project needs to bring to the table, and then a detailed action plan, which is more granular on what exactly will you do, what are the specific tasks and timelines and goals to deliver on that functionality. Then naturally taking it step by step with prototyping or with an MVP approach, mock-ups to visualize its functionality, the user interface for quickly feedback and iteration loops that will prepare you for full-scale development, which is not usually a super long thing, and it usually follows the standard software development lifecycle with testing, implementation, and feedback. And naturally, last but not least, you would like to ask your customers whether they actually like this improvement. You would like to monitor the data. Are they actually using it? What's the feedback? How can you continuously refine and enhance that value-added service offering to better meet user needs and preferences? All right, we've went quickly through what VASs are, what values VASs bring, what are the typical value-added service types of products out there, how to implement them, and how to check if that idea for a VAS is actually valid. Let's maybe take a quick look into the future, and we're going to wrap it up. I think that looking ahead, one of the most promising but also most challenging trend for banks who are rather generalists is personalization, which is increasingly demanded by customers in all industries. But the banking service specifically is, I would say, not really, let's say, thinking how to put it, a best space to be personalized, even though banks sit on a lot of data, like tons of data that they aggregated on every customer for the last years. It's really hard to get from there to actually deriving meaningful insights from that data in order to personalize that offer. It is still using the banks are still using the same solutions to every customer. So taking it from being general to being personal, I think that will be a big challenge for the banks, and that's where value-added services can be a very much of a differentiator. So financial organizations will have to anticipate and deliver this personal value that can be, let's say, individually adjusted by their clients. That will be the first trend, in my understanding. The second trend is, looking ahead, the VAS offerings will be expected to cover more lifestyle and wellness services, even more blurring the boundaries between banking and other sectors. And thirdly, I would expect that the global trend of super apps will boost and enhance the implementation of value-added services as a result. So if you look at the markets like Nigeria or Brazil or Vietnam, these are the markets where societies are used to having one app to do everything in it, banking included. Value-added services here in the European or American version are sort of halfway there when it comes to being as complex. And I think this trend of super apps will impact other not super apps markets to the extent that it will put more and more pressure on value-added services to be implemented. All right, guys, wrapping it up. I think that as consumers, let's say, increasingly seek just convenience and seamlessness in digital transactions, banks that embrace value-added services strategically will stay ahead and grow their profits even more, because it is by offering innovative services you can actually go beyond ordinary banking features and financial products that will drive loyalty, that do engage, while at the same time positioning banks as trusted partners in operations that are not only banking related. In my understanding, and I'm pretty confident here, value-added services are not just a trend. They are here to stay. They are the future of banking. We at Speednet believe that every bank and money-related business should leverage the power of value-added services, and this way deliver a lasting sense of being taken care of on all possible levels by their customers, within their customers, to foster that engagement and long-term partnership. If you have found this episode useful, if you have found the topic of value-added services interesting, please do take a look at our white paper on value-added services. There's more case studies, there's numbers, there's tables, there's reports, there's just more resources. I really hope that you will find it very, very interesting. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.